Imagine the United States Navy developing a weapon so powerful that it could hide an entire warship from the enemy. Not camouflage it, not disguise it, but make it physically disappear. According to the legend, the ship vanished from a naval yard in Philadelphia, appeared hundreds of miles away in Virginia, and then returned only minutes later. But when it came back, something was horribly wrong. Some of the sailors were reportedly driven insane. Others simply disappeared, and in the most disturbing versions of the story, several men returned fused into the steel walls and decks of the ship itself. The Navy says none of this ever happened. The official records say the ship was never even in Philadelphia. And yet, for more than 70 years, the story has refused to disappear. Because the strangest part of the Philadelphia experiment may not be what supposedly happened aboard the ship. It may be how the story began. With a mysterious letter, a book filled with handwritten warnings, and one man who claimed the United States government had already discovered how to tear open reality. Tonight, we are investigating the legend of the Philadelphia experiment, and the deeper we travel into this story, the more difficult it becomes to tell where military history ends and something much darker begins. The year was 1943. The Second World War was raging across Europe, North Africa, and the Pacific. German submarines stalked Allied shipping routes, and every convoy that crossed the Atlantic risked attack from an enemy hiding beneath the waves. At the same time, scientific research was changing warfare. Radar allowed ships and aircraft to detect enemies before they could be seen. Sonar revealed submarines beneath the surface. Magnetic mines could remain hidden underwater until the steel hull of a vessel passed overhead. For the military powers of the world, victory increasingly depended upon discovering technologies the enemy did not possess, or did not yet understand. Against that background, secret research did not sound unusual. Governments were already creating weapons that would have appeared impossible only a few years earlier. The Manhattan Project was secretly building the atomic bomb. Researchers were developing guided missiles, advanced radar systems, and new methods of electronic warfare. So the idea that the Navy might attempt to make a ship invisible did not seem completely absurd. At the center of the legend was a cannon-class destroyer escort known as the USS Eldridge, designated D-173. The Eldridge was not an enormous battleship or aircraft carrier. It was a smaller escort vessel, approximately 300 feet long, designed to protect convoys from submarines and aircraft. It carried guns, torpedoes, depth charges, and a crew of roughly 200 sailors. The ship was built in Newark, New Jersey, and commissioned on August 27, 1943. Its official career was respectable but largely ordinary. Convoy protection in the Atlantic, followed later by service in the Pacific. But according to the legend, before the Eldridge began its normal wartime duties, it was selected for something extraordinary. A secret project involving enormous electrical generators, powerful electromagnetic fields, and scientific theories supposedly connected to Albert Einstein. The experiment would eventually become known as Project Rainbow. Its alleged objective was simple to describe, but almost impossible to imagine: make the USS Eldridge invisible. Most popular versions of the story place the main experiment during the fall of 1943. The Eldridge was supposedly positioned at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard and fitted with massive generators, electrical cables, and specialized equipment. The crew was ordered aboard. Scientists and naval officers observed from a safe distance. Then the generators were activated. At first, witnesses allegedly heard a deep electrical vibration. The air surrounding the vessel seemed to shimmer. A strange green or blue-green fog began forming around the hull. The generators grew louder. Electrical energy crawled across the deck. The outline of the Eldridge became distorted, as though the ship were being viewed through waves of intense heat. Then the vessel disappeared, not merely from radar, not merely from magnetic detection. It vanished from human sight. For several moments, all that remained was an indentation in the water where the destroyer escort had been floating. Then even that was gone. At approximately the same time, sailors more than 200 miles away near Norfolk, Virginia, supposedly witnessed an impossible sight. The USS Eldridge appeared without warning in the harbor. It remained there only briefly before vanishing again. Within minutes, the ship reappeared in Philadelphia, surrounded by the same unnatural fog. The Navy had not simply hidden a ship, it had apparently transported one across hundreds of miles of ocean and returned it almost instantaneously. According to the story, the experiment had been a technological triumph. But for the men aboard the Eldridge, when officers approached the returned vessel, they allegedly discovered scenes that seemed to violate the laws of nature. Some crew members were physically unharmed, but completely disoriented. They stared into space, unable to recognize their surroundings or remember their own names. Others were vomiting or suffering from intense dizziness. A number of sailors reportedly became violent or irrational. Some began screaming at things no one else could see. Several men were said to have vanished during the experiment and never returned. Others supposedly began fading in and out of visibility after the event. They would disappear in front of witnesses and then reappear minutes or hours later, confused and terrified. The most horrifying claim was that some sailors had rematerialized inside the ship. One man was reportedly found partially embedded in the deck. Others were fused into metal bulkheads. Their bodies joined with the steel as though the ship and its crew had been reconstructed in the same physical space. These details became increasingly graphic as the story was repeated over the years. Some accounts claim sailors remained alive while trapped inside the metal. Others said the Navy removed entire sections of the vessel to conceal what had happened. There were also stories of crew members becoming frozen. According to the original claims, a sailor affected by the experiment might suddenly stop moving and remain trapped in that condition until other crew members placed their hands upon him. This became known as placing a man's hands upon another sailor in order to bring him back into the physical world. And according to the legend, the consequences did not end when the experiment was shut down. The surviving sailors were supposedly placed under observation. Some were institutionalized. Others had their memories altered or erased. A few allegedly disappeared into secret government facilities. The Navy then removed the experimental equipment, replaced the crew, and rewrote the ship's records. The Philadelphia experiment was buried. Or at least, that is how the story would eventually be told. But there was a serious problem. In 1943, no one publicly reported that a ship had disappeared. The story did not surface during the war. It did not appear immediately after the war. In fact, the Philadelphia experiment would remain virtually unknown for more than a decade. And when the story finally emerged, it did not come from a Navy officer, a scientist, or a member of the Eldridge's crew. It came from a man calling himself Carlos Miguel Allende, in night. A writer named Morris K. Jessup published a book titled The Case for the UFO. Jessup had studied astronomy and developed an intense interest in unidentified flying objects, unexplained disappearances, and theories involving advanced methods of propulsion. His book suggested that UFOs might use technology capable of manipulating gravity and electromagnetic energy. Shortly after the book appeared, Jessup began receiving letters from a stranger. The man signed his name in several different ways, most famously as Carlos Miguel Allende. He was later identified as Carl Meredith Allen, a former merchant mariner from Pennsylvania. The letters were difficult to read. Words were unexpectedly capitalized. Sentences wandered from one subject to another. Punctuation appeared almost randomly. Scientific language was mixed with strange warnings and dramatic declarations. But buried inside those letters was the story of an experiment conducted by the Navy in 1943. Allende claimed that scientists had used Einstein's unified field theory to make a destroyer invisible. He described terrible consequences for the crew, including insanity, disappearances, and men becoming trapped in a kind of suspended state. Allende insisted the experiment had been successful from a scientific perspective. The equipment had done what it was designed to do. The failure had been the human beings caught inside the field. One of the most chilling ideas expressed in his correspondence could be summarized this way. The experiment worked. The men did not. Allende claimed he had witnessed the event while serving aboard a merchant vessel, the SS Andrew Furuseth. Jessup was intrigued enough to write back and ask for evidence, including names, dates, and information about other witnesses. But Allende never produced convincing documentation. Instead, the story became even stranger. In 1956, the Office of Naval Research received an unusual package. Inside was a copy of Jessup's own book, The Case for the UFO. Someone had covered its pages with handwritten notes. The annotations appeared in different colors of ink and seemed to represent a conversation among three separate people. The writers discussed alien civilizations, secret technology, gravity, space travel, and ancient catastrophes. They sometimes referred to themselves as gypsies. They wrote as though Jessup had accidentally uncovered scientific knowledge humanity was not supposed to possess. And hidden among the comments were apparent references to the same invisibility experiment Allende had described. Two officers at the Office of Naval Research became interested in the book and showed it to Jessup. He reportedly recognized similarities between the handwriting in the margins and the letters he had received from Carlos Allende. The officers then arranged for a small number of copies to be reproduced. This version became known as the Varro edition, named after the company involved in preparing it. The Navy later explained that the officers' interest had been personal rather than evidence of an official invisibility investigation. Only a small number of copies were prepared, and the Office of Naval Research did not maintain an official investigative file on the claims. But to conspiracy researchers, that distinction did not matter. Why would naval officers reproduce the book if they believed it was nonsense? Why were military researchers interested in notes about anti-gravity, aliens, and disappearing ships? And why did three different writers seem to know so much about the Philadelphia experiment? There was eventually evidence that the three supposed writers were actually one person. Carl Allen reportedly demonstrated that he could alter his handwriting, creating the appearance of several individuals exchanging messages. But by then, the story had escaped its creator. The Navy's involvement with the annotated book, even if it had been nothing more than curiosity, gave the legend the appearance of official validation. The more the government denied the experiment, the more some people became convinced the denials were part of the cover-up. Morris Jessup's life began unraveling during the late 1950s. His publishing career was struggling, his personal life had deteriorated, and in April 1959 he died by suicide. There is no credible evidence that his death was connected to the Philadelphia experiment. Nevertheless, conspiracy writers transformed it into another chapter of the mystery. Had Jessup discovered something dangerous? Had his conversations with naval researchers placed him under surveillance? Had the man investigating a disappearing ship been permanently silenced? The available evidence does not support those claims. Contemporary accounts of Jessup's life describe serious personal and professional difficulties, and his death was not officially treated as a government assassination. But mystery often feeds upon tragedy. Once Jessup died, he could no longer explain what he believed, what he doubted, or how seriously he had taken Allende. His silence became whatever later writers wanted it to be. To skeptics, his death was a personal tragedy exploited by conspiracy promoters. To believers, it was proof that someone wanted the Philadelphia experiment forgotten. The official history of the USS Eldridge creates an enormous problem for the legend. Naval archivists reviewed the ship's war diary and deck logs from the time it was commissioned through the end of 1943. Those records describe its movements in detail. After commissioning in New York, the Eldridge remained around New York and Long Island Sound before sailing to Bermuda for training and sea trials. It returned to New York on October 18th and remained there until November 1st, when it departed as part of a convoy. The Navy's conclusion is direct. During the period in which the Philadelphia experiment supposedly occurred, the Eldridge was never in Philadelphia. The alleged witness ship presents another difficulty. Carl Allen claimed to have witnessed the event from the SS Andrew Furuseth and said the merchant vessel's crew saw the Eldridge appear near Norfolk. But shipping records show that the Andrew Furuseth left Norfolk on October 25, 1943, bound for Oran in North Africa. The records place the two vessels in different locations. The captain of the Andrew Furuseth also later denied that he or his crew had witnessed anything unusual. According to the Navy's archival review, the Eldridge and the Andrew Furuseth were not in Norfolk at the same time. No verified member of the Eldridge's crew produced evidence of a teleportation experiment. No authentic medical records documenting sailors fused into the ship have surfaced. No confirmed newspaper account from 1943 has been located. Despite Allende's claim that the event had been reported, and repeated searches of naval archives have found no record of a project designed to make ships physically invisible or transport them through space.
The Office of Naval Research could not have directed such an experiment in 1943 for another simple reason. The organization was not established until 1946. That does not mean the Navy was doing nothing secret with electromagnetic fields. During the war, naval vessels were equipped with a system known as degaussing. Ships constructed from large quantities of steel possess magnetic signatures. Those signatures could trigger German magnetic mines hidden beneath the water. Degaussing systems used electrical cables running around a ship's hull. By sending a controlled current through the cables, the system reduced or altered the vessel's magnetic field. In naval terminology, this could make a ship invisible to a magnetic mine, but only to the mine's sensor. The ship remained completely visible to sailors, aircraft, radar operators, and anyone standing on the shore. No teleportation was involved. No dimensional gateway opened. No sailors became part of the hull. However, imagine how the technology might have sounded to an ordinary crew member in 1943. Electrical cables wrapped around the vessel. Powerful currents moved through the hull. The equipment was classified. Officers described the ship as being made invisible to enemy mines. A sailor repeats the story in a bar. Someone misunderstands what invisible means. Years pass. The electrical field becomes a force field. Protection from mines becomes disappearance from radar. Disappearance from radar becomes disappearance from sight. And finally, a ship protected by electromagnetism becomes a ship teleported through space. The Navy has suggested that degaussing research may have contributed to the legend. It has also pointed to later experiments involving a high-frequency generator aboard another destroyer, the USS Timmerman. That equipment produced visible corona discharges and electrical glow, but no crew members were harmed. Perhaps fragments of several real experiments were eventually combined into a single impossible story. The Philadelphia experiment might have faded into an obscure collection of strange letters. Instead, it continued growing.
In 1979, Charles Berlitz and William L. Moore published the Philadelphia experiment. Project Invisibility. The book presented the legend to a much wider audience and helped establish many details now commonly associated with the event. In 1984, the story became a science fiction film in which sailors from the Eldridge were thrown forward in time. Latter retellings added new scientists, new witnesses, and new connections. The Philadelphia experiment became linked with UFOs, Nikola Tesla, time travel, mind control, and another alleged secret program known as the Montauk Project. Each version borrowed from the one before it, and each version added something darker. The sailors were no longer simply sick. They were fused into steel. The ship was no longer briefly invisible, it entered another dimension. The experiment no longer ended in 1943. It became the beginning of a secret government program manipulating time itself. This is how legends evolve. They do not remain fixed. They absorb the fears of each generation. In the 1940s, the fear was secret wartime technology. In the 1950s, it was UFOs and atomic science. In later decades, it became government mind control, hidden dimensions, and experiments that could rewrite reality. The original evidence never became stronger. The story simply became larger. Based upon the surviving records, there is no credible evidence that the Navy teleported the USS Eldridge, made it optically invisible, or conducted an experiment that fused sailors into the vessel. The ship's documented location contradicts the story. The alleged witness vessel was somewhere else. The central witness repeatedly changed his story, and archival evidence indicates he created the multiple voices inside the annotated book. The technology most likely associated with the rumored degaussing was real, but incapable of producing anything resembling teleportation. The Philadelphia experiment, as it is normally told, almost certainly never happened. But that does not make the story meaningless, because beneath the impossible claims lies something genuine: real wartime secrecy, real electromagnetic research, real classified technology, real fear among sailors who often did not know what equipment was being installed aboard their ships.
And one man who discovered that a mysterious letter could be more powerful than an official record. Carl Allende did not need photographs of a disappearing ship. He did not need a list of missing sailors. He did not need scientific proof. He only needed enough truth to make the impossible sound plausible. There really was a USS Eldridge. The Navy really did experiment with electromagnetic systems. Ships really were described as being made invisible to magnetic mines. Albert Einstein really did work as a part-time consultant for the Navy's Bureau of Ordnance during the war, although there is no indication that his work involved invisibility or teleportation. Every legend needs a foundation, and the strongest legends are often constructed upon facts that have been rearranged until they tell an entirely different story. Perhaps the USS Eldridge never vanished from Philadelphia, but the truth surrounding it certainly did. It disappeared beneath decades of retellings, books, films, fabricated witnesses, and government suspicion. Today, the ordinary history of the ship feels almost less real than the legend attached to it. That may be the true Philadelphia experiment. Not an experiment performed upon a warship, but an experiment performed upon memory. Repeat a story often enough, add enough technical language, and surround it with enough secrecy, and eventually people stop asking whether it happened. They begin asking why it was covered up, and once a story reaches that point, every missing document becomes evidence. Every denial becomes confirmation, and every unanswered question becomes another doorway into the unknown. So what do you believe? Was the Philadelphia experiment nothing more than a hoax created from misunderstood naval technology? Was Carl Allen repeating rumors that had already circulated among wartime sailors? Or was there a genuine classified experiment hidden beneath the impossible claims, a smaller event that became distorted to prevent anyone from discovering what the Navy had actually developed? Let me know your theory in the comments. And while you are there, be sure to like this video, subscribe to Darker Things, and turn on notifications so you do not miss our next journey into the disturbing, mysterious, and unexplained. Because history is filled with events that governments recorded.
It is filled with events that witnesses remembered. But somewhere between the official record and the human imagination are the stories that refuse to remain buried. Stories about ships that vanish, men who return changed, and experiments that may have opened doors never meant to be opened. Those are the stories we continue searching for here on Darker Things.